Application Services Framework was introduced in PeopleTools 8.57 to provide easy-to-build and maintain REST services used only by PeopleSoft Digital Assistant skills. Prior to 8.59, these skills were referred to as chatbots. With PeopleTools 8.59, Application Services Framework has been enhanced to create application services that conform to Oracle REST standards and can be used anywhere provider REST services are supported. In this video, we will introduce the Application Services Framework enhancements and demonstrate how to create a new application service, administer application services, test application services, and describe the chatbot conversion when upgrading to PeopleTools 8.59. With the Application Services Framework, you can create and manage provider-only REST services. The Application Services Designer simplifies the process of maintaining REST services and enforces naming standards. PeopleSoft delivered application services, including skills, will be modified to meet the Oracle REST standard and delivered when the PeopleSoft image for your application is available on PeopleTools 8.59. We will begin by creating a new application service. To access the application services from the menu, select PeopleTools, Integration Broker, Application Services. Select Manage Application Services. Prior to 8.59, application services were only used to create digital assistant skills, referred to as chatbots. As a part of the PeopleTools upgrade to 8.59, these services are converted to the new format and will run in PeopleTools 8.59. However, they will not be compliant as REST web services. We will discuss the conversion later in this video. To create a new application service, select Create Application Service. For this demo, we will create an application service for music. By default, the application services are primary. The service URL ID must be lowercase. The default status is active. You can enable SSL. Optionally, you can assign a service group an owner ID. We'll create a service group demo. Enter a description for the service and then click Save. When you save the application service, the system will verify that the service meets the Oracle standards and that it is unique. Click OK. The save process generates the necessary IP metadata, updates the service name, and enables the Create Root Resource and Import Root Resource buttons. We will create a new root resource. The root resource is the URL to the web service. Enter a root resource name and description. Select the application package that contains the application logic to execute. The application class must extend the PCB App Service Defin Application Service Base application class and then implement the invoke service method to define the application logic. Use the %this.service API property to read and write parameters and other application services metadata. After you have entered the application package information, click Done for the root resource. After creating the root resource, select the resource to add URI templates. URI templates are strings that can be transformed into URIs after embedded variables are substituted. Select the Add URI Template button. By default, the expression type is simple string, which is used for provider services. Currently, no base template parameters exist for this application service. Select Add Base Template Parameter. We will add a parameter for instrument. The parameter name must adhere to Oracle's naming standard. Select the data type and length if appropriate. Select the collection checkbox if this parameter will be a part of a collection of values. Enter a description, then click Done to add the parameter. Once defined, the parameter is available to be used in all URI templates for this application service. To form the URI, click the Add to Workspace button. This will display the parameter in brackets in the Expression Workspace section. You can then click Append to URI to add the variable to the URI template. Select Done when the URI template is complete. When the application service is saved, a restricted document is created defining the primitives used for value replacement within the URI template. The document is created in the ASF service document package with the app service ID. Next, we will add a method to the URI template. Click the Add Method button. Select the REST method from the drop-down list. For this demo, we will use GET. We want to get a list of all students for an instrument. Indicate if there are multiple rows of input or output. Since this is a GET, multi-row input is grayed out. Indicate if a token is required. The default token type is OAuth2. The type can be changed when you set up security. For this demo, a token is not required. Enter the description, then click Done. Click the Parameters link to add an output parameter. Output parameters can be added directly from the Parameters page for the application method or by selecting Base Parameters menu item for the application service. For REST methods other than GET, you can add input and output parameters. We will create an output parameter for student. Click Create Output Parameter. The parameter data type will be compound array as we want to return multiple students. Indicate if IB is required and enter a description. Since this is a compound array, we must supply the JSON schema for the parameter. Click Done. The output parameter was added. Click Done again on the Parameters page. Select the Result States link to view the result states. By default, a single result state will be created indicating success with a status code of 200. You can modify the status and add additional result states. We will change the application state for success and add a category for failure. We will use failure code 400. After updating the result states, click Done. Click Done on the root resource page and then save the application service. Click OK on the message that it was saved. Base template parameters are also available from the left panel. Select this link to view the base template parameters and add additional parameters. We will add a parameter for a collection of music codes. Click Add Base Template Parameter. Use camel case for the name. The parameter type is integer with a length of 5. This will be a collection of music codes. Enter the description and click Done. Save the application service and click OK. Use the Base Parameters page to define a set of parameters that can be reused for any root resource as input or output parameters. We will create 3 parameters to use as output. Select Add Base Parameter. First, we will create a parameter for number of players. The data type is number, and we will enter the description, then click Done. Next, we will add a parameter for instrument. The data type is string with a length of 30. Enter the information and click Done. We also need an output parameter for music code, which will be an integer. Enter the information and click Done. The base parameters are now available to use as input or output for this application service. Save the application service and then click OK on the message that the save was successful. Now we will add another URI template. Click on the root resource band. Select Add URI Template. The existing base template parameters for this application service are listed. For this template, we will add instrument and music code. Click Add to Workspace for Instrument, then Append to URI. Click Add a Separator, then Add Music Code to the workspace, then Append to URI. We can see the URI template. Click Done. We will add a Get method. Click Add Method. This method will have multi-row output to return the number of players for an instrument and code. We will not use a token. Enter a description and click Done. Now we will add the output parameters. Select the Parameters link. Expand Base Parameters. Note the base parameters we added are now available. Select Use as Output for each of these. We will have 3 output parameters. Click Done. We will also add a request and response header for this method. Select the header link. We will add a request header for language. Enter the property name, value, and description. Select the Add Row icon to add the response header for location. The header type is Response. Enter the property name and description. Click Done. Click Done again on the HTTP headers page. We will add one more method for post. Click Add Method. The REST method is post. This method does not have multi-row input or output and does not require a token. Add the description and click Done. Select the Parameters link to add the input parameters. Expand the base parameters. Select the Use as Input button for instrument and music code. Select Done. Click Done again on the root resource page. Save the application service and click OK on the message that the save was successful. Once you have entered the URI templates, you can use the summary link to review the application service. This page displays all the metadata necessary to code the application class for the application service. The ability to create a service alias provides customers with the flexibility to change the application logic in a registered application service, thereby avoiding customization. To create a service alias, search for the application service. We will select Music. Click the Create Service Alias button. Enter an alias name. We will add this to the service group demo and add a description. Select the root resource or resources to alias. Then click Create Alias. Click OK on the message that the alias was created. The service URL ID remains the same for the alias and the primary application service from which it was created. The application logic is executed based on the application service that is active. A new application class must be created for the alias, which contains the application logic for the application service. If the primary application service is modified in a delivered update, it will not affect the alias application service. To add the application logic for the alias, select the root resource, in this case, band. Enter the root package ID, class path, and application class for the alias. Click Done. Make any other modifications necessary for the alias, such as adding additional root resources or changing parameters. For this demo, we will save the application service without any further changes. Save the application service and click OK on the message. Next, we will look at administering application services. From the menu, select PeopleTools, Integration Broker, Application Services, Administration. Administration includes activating a service, setting security, deleting a service, and exporting a service. We will look at each of these. To activate or inactivate a service, select Activate Application Services. Use Search to find the application service. We will search by service group. Click Search. An alias root resource will always have priority over its associated primary if both are active. If the alias is not active, the primary application service is used. If the alias root resource is not active, the primary application service root resource is used. For this demo, we will inactivate the alias. Click the Actions for Activate option and select Inactive. Notice that the action now shows inactive. Select Music Alias and then click Save. Click OK on the message that the save was successful. We now see that Music Alias is inactive. Next, we will look at Application Security. Return to the menu and select Application Services Security. Use Search to select the application service. We will search by service group. Use the Set Security link to set security for a specific root resource, index, and method. Enter the permission list and access, then save. Click OK on the message. We can see that the security is only set for that row. Use the bulk update feature to apply security for multiple root resources and REST methods. You can use the Select All button or individually select the application services. We will select the Music Application Services, then click Bulk Update. Select the permission list or lists and access level, then save. Click OK, then click the Return to Bulk Permissions link. Use the Token Required tab to set the authentication option where token is required. The default is OAuth 2. You can change this to Basic Auth. Use the SSL tab to set SSL to indicate that SSL is required for the application service. To delete an application service, select Delete Application Services from the menu. When you delete an application service, all of the associated metadata is also deleted. Only one application service can be deleted at a time. Click the Delete button for the application service ID to delete. Click Yes to confirm the delete, then click OK on the Delete Successful message. Let's search for the service group demo. Notice that the Delete button is grayed out for music. An application service is defined as primary, can only be deleted if the associated alias has been deleted. The Delete button will also be grayed out if the application service has been exported. In order to delete the application service, you must first delete the export of the application service. Next, we will look at exporting an application service. Return to the menu and select Export Application Service. First, we will search by service group. Only the root resources with a status of active can be exported. The application service must be exported to create the REST API web service. Exporting the application service will create an open API document describing the service. To export the service, select Export in the Actions. Select Yes for the service and save. Click OK on the message that the application service was exported. For exported services, an Open API link will be displayed. When selected, the Open API document will be displayed in JSON format. The JSON can be copied and loaded into any open API editor to view the document in human-readable form. This is an example of the Open API in Swagger. The Application Service Tester utility enables you to create a URI template with variables to test your application service. The Application Service Tester provides the ability to test both standard and Chatbot application services. From the home page, you can search for Test Application Services. Use Search to select the application service to test. We will test music. When you click the application service to test, the indexes for the service are displayed. We will select the first index. By default, the test option is standard. A Chatbot test option is also available. Use this option to test converted chatbots or new skills created on the new application service framework. Music is a standard application service. Select the Populate URI template link to enter the variables for your test. Notice that the URI template format is displayed. We need to enter a value for instrument. Click the instrument link. Enter a value and click Done. When you close the URI Template Builder window, the URI is displayed with the variables. Click Execute to test the application service. The results will be displayed. To test another path, expand the Select a Path item section. Select the path to test. This time we will select Index 2. Again, we need to populate the URI. Select the Populate URI template link. This URI template includes both instrument and a collection of music codes. The value for instrument is populated from our previous test. Click Instrument to change the value. We will enter a new value and click Done. Click on Music Code to select the collection actions. For collections, you can append a collection item or delete the last collection item. We want to append a collection item. Click Done. First, we will enter a value for the first music code. Enter a value and click Done. Select the second music code, enter a value, and click Done. When we close the URI Template Builder, we will see the URI with the variables. Again, we can execute the request. The response shows 2 items. For this method, we created request and response headers. Select the request header link to view the request header. Then close it. Select the response headers link to review the response header, and then click Done. Oracle Digital Assistant skills created in a PeopleTools release prior to 8.59 were referred to as chatbots. These chatbots require conversion to comply with all Oracle REST standards. This conversion is performed as a part of the upgrade to PeopleTools 8.59. A chatbot conversion utility is available and can be used, if necessary, to run the conversion again. Enter Chatbot Service Conversion in the search bar to access the utility. The conversion page displays converted ID for service URL new, which conforms to the Oracle REST standard. In this example, the chatbots that were converted as a part of the PeopleTools 8.59 upgrade have a converted application service name. The column for non-compliant naming items lists the parameters that do not meet REST naming conventions. For customers who have created their own chatbots, the chatbot will continue to run. However, the application services should be upgraded for compliance. Click the number to view the non-compliant naming items. Close the window. Any existing chatbots that were not converted during the upgrade or were deleted can be manually converted by selecting the application service. Optionally, you can update the value in the Service URL ID New Edit box. When you select Convert, The conversion page will copy the data out of the old application service tables and build a new application service in the new framework. Click OK on the message that the service was created. This is an example of the Chatbot conversion utility on the PeopleSoft Update image. PeopleSoft applications will update the delivered digital assistant skills as REST-compliant application services. The updated application services will be delivered in the PeopleSoft Update image for the application. Since the customer's target database may be on a previous release, it is necessary to map the modified application service to the original old application service. Select the mapping page on the PUM source to view the mapping. This mapping is required for proper backporting and to generate a properly defined Chatbot discovery document. This mapping is also used to ensure proper conversion of customers' alias application services and to remove orphaned new application services. The backport page is used for application services that need to be backported to an earlier PeopleTools release, 8.58 or 8.57. The cleanup page will list any orphaned primary application services and mapping of orphaned alias application services. In order for Oracle Digital Assistant, ODA, to make callbacks into PeopleSoft, the skill must be created in ODA. To access the Export Chatbot page, from the menu, select PeopleTools, Integration Broker, Application Services, Administration, Export Application Service. Select the Export Chatbot page to generate custom components for ODA usage from the application service metadata. When you select Yes in the Export Service column for the application service, a Chatbot discovery document is created. Click the link to view it. For more information on Application Services Framework, you can download the companion slides to view the narration from Oracle Learning Library where you access this video. From the PeopleSoft Information Portal, you can find information about PeopleSoft Picasso, digital assistants, and skills. And refer to the PeopleTools Application Service Framework documentation from the PeopleTools Help Center.